All right, welcome back. This is Jessica Blankenship. I have a video on my mind today. I want to talk about my service to the world as an art teacher. And a couple things brought this up, and I want to talk about those things because I feel like it's important contextually to understand it. So my husband is a fan of anything sports, and he's been watching all these NFL and NBA former players' speeches when they get inducted into the Hall of Fame on YouTube. So he's been watching all these on YouTube. And I'm hearing him in the other room, and I keep hearing all this stuff about great coaches, and how awesome that is. I mean, I have met some amazing coaches. I've seen my husband be an amazing coach to high school baseball boys. And how much that means and how many kids need that impact and how beautiful it is. A person who's not even playing that game, they're not getting the thrill of the game. Their thrill comes from seeing their team do all those beautiful things. They're players, and how cool that is. Anyway, so I've been hearing all this in the other room, him listening to these, and from former years, and going way back, some of them, and talking about these amazing coaches and talking about amazing teachers. And it just got me thinking about this other shot that somebody captured of during a game. A coach on the sideline was jumping, and he was like 3 feet off the ground, how high he was jumping his feet, because he was so into watching his players do their thing. Okay. They were doing it. He was not doing it. He was on the sidelines. But the thrill of seeing them accomplish what they were accomplishing was a serious thrill to him. It lit him up. Clearly, he was off the ground. And how much, I think 2 different people showed me that clip of how far that coach was jumping. And I just couldn't help but think, that is how I feel as an art teacher. I am not kidding you. I am my students' biggest fans. I am an artist myself, but a few years ago I realized, even after teaching art since 13 years now, my own art making is important to me. I love it. But seeing my students accomplish things in their personalities, their individualism shine through their art, all these things, I am their biggest fan. I love seeing them shine. It's not even my art. Just like that coach, he's not the one on the field. That's how I feel about my students. And there's been a few times in the last 2 weeks, I have walked around and I've said to a kid, "Can I take a picture of that zebra you're drawing?" And this little second grader's like, "Sure," and I love that. And I have looked at that zebra on my phone so many times, like, I love this project. This kid is it's just so beautiful to capture it. And it just makes my day. I'm not even the one making it. Do you see what I'm saying there, that parallel? And I just wanted to, I wanted to talk about all the things that happen that I really try to make happen in the art room, and why it's my service to the world, why it's my calling, okay? I aim with everything in me to cultivate an atmosphere of a love of learning in the art room, okay? I teach kindergarten to 5th grade, and at 2 different schools in my district. And then I also have my own art business, of course, where I teach online. But my goal, it's a little harder online, right? Because they're just seeing videos of me. I'm not interacting with them in person. And in some ways, that's kind of a hard thing. But anyway, in my personal classrooms, like I said, I have 2 classrooms. I strive to create an atmosphere of a love of learning, not just a love of art. Because I feel very strongly that educators need to pass on a intensity and passion about our subject matter and learning as a whole, the same way that a coach passes on their passion to their players, okay? And I feel like that sometimes is lacking because of all the requirements of the job. I mean, we're like doing the job of this whole umbrella in society, and some days it's really hard and it's heavy sometimes. And but I feel like if we can keep that passion up, and if we can like convey that to kids, that it's a love of learning, it's an absolute joy to seek out how to solve something and to figure it out, to the process of it, right? That's what art is. Just yesterday I used the term, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, this clay project with my 5th graders. I was talking to them about, we're making these clay lanterns that will stand. And so they're making these 2 sides, and then they have to stand up, and then they attach them at each end. And then all these cutouts, that's where your light comes through from our little battery operated tea lights that will be in them when we're all finished with them. But those cutouts, of course, weaken the structure. The more you cut out, the less is there to hold itself up. So I was talking to the kids about this editing process, and I was like, this is what art is. If you start to see that it's collapsing, that it's not holding itself up, you've got to solve that problem. Like, okay, do I need to put something inside this while it dries and firms up? Do I need to squish this out and restart this side? Do I need to re-roll out this area? What do I need to do? And that's what art is. It's just constant problem solving and constant mending and, making something better, constant editing, like the writing process. And I jokingly say that's why God made erasers. It's the students when they're drawing, like, it's okay. If you draw it and it needs fixing, that's okay. That's what we do. We got to enjoy the process of making that happen. And why does that matter in life? Because that's what life is, right? All day long, we're learning about the things that didn't work, and we've got to fix that. And if we shut down because we can't handle the stress of it, we're not gonna live a fulfilling life, because the struggle shuts us down. I feel like if we can pass on that love of learning, love of figuring out, that whole saying, everything is figure outable, because it is, right? You might have to pull another mind in, somebody who's got an expertise in that area, but we can figure things out. And that's what we do in art. I really think that I have this like personal feeling that art is underestimated. And in some ways I put that mindset on myself for a lot of years, because I feel like, no one ever said it, but I feel like I was treated as this, oh, you teach elementary art, how frivolous, and gee, your life's difficult. You know what I mean? That's kind of the vibe I've got. I got over the years from people, and maybe I made that up, but that's kind of what I got. And then but the more I do it, the more I realize, whatever, I'm teaching all kinds of great stuff, like mindfulness, paying attention, right? If you're drawing something from real life, I'm looking out my window here, we've got all these bird feeders. If you want to draw a bird, the best thing you can do is study the natural sciences, photography, right? All that stuff out there that God created with all these beautiful details, and you study them and you take note of the different features, their beaks, the kind of things they eat. All that stuff has to do with observation, paying attention, mindfulness, slowing down. That's the kind of stuff we do in my class. Even it sounds simple, but when you're teaching the students, my goal is for them to think about it. I could solve all their problems for them, right? Because I know the project, I know what they're going to come up against pretty much most of the time, I could just solve it for them. But like this week, we were doing these 3D hot air balloons that start out 2-dimensional. And basically, they have to fit this hot air balloon template on their large paper 6 times. So that when we all cut them out and we fold them, attach them together, and it's got this kind of accordion look when it's all finished, the more of those attached, the more interesting it is, okay? Well, I try to guide them through it, and I try to ask them questions to get them thinking, like, how many times do you think this can fit on this paper? Because we're not getting a second piece of paper. You got to fit on this one large piece as many times as possible. And I guide them through it, and they have to think about it. And you can see the younger ones are like, I think you could fit it on there this many times. And then I say, Well, what if I just smack this down right in the middle and trace it? Am I going to have room for all of them? No, I'm not. We've got to think ahead. We've got to scoot them over. We've got to have some mindfulness about what we're doing, right? We've got to pay attention. And this is so good for these kids. And as well as just that slowing down and paying attention, I feel like is just really, really good for this generation, because they're accustomed to entertainment. They're accustomed to everything digital, fast. Some of them have never seen a commercial in their entire life, right? Because most people have the way to get through the commercial. They don't have to watch it. So they just live in a different world than us, than what we were raised in. So instead of being upset at them, we just have to understand that's what they've missed out on, and we have to teach that. We take personal responsibility for that, teaching that, slowing down, and paying attention. And the other thing that I feel like I'm really good at teaching and modeling is reflection. Being able to reflect on your own choices, on your mistakes. All of that has to do with problem solving, like I said before, but an incredibly valuable skill, because it forces you to look within instead of blaming, right? And that's, we all know a person who blames other people is a victim, and that's not who you want to work around. That's not who you want to be married to. That's not the person you want to raise. So your children. So we have to teach that, being able to reflect, self-assess, right? To make those constant edits and being open to those constant edits, right? I feel like that's truly, all these things are connecting when I'm talking about. I'm kind of overlapping what I'm saying, but I really feel like it's important. Just like if you go back to the coach example, the best coaches are very well aware of how to balance encouragement and building up a player with critique, because you've got to be able to critique what they're doing wrong. That's how you get better. They balance that in such a beautiful way, and that's how the best coaches get so much out of players. And while they're at it, they also make a better human, right? And then it's this beautiful relationship. I feel like I do that in the art room. I really do. I make it a priority that I have genuine, not fake, genuine words of affirmation for these students' work and the amount of effort that they're putting in. Because sometimes, let's be honest, some kids, their fine motor skills are so lacking that sometimes their drawing does not look at all like what we're trying to draw. But if they are giving so much effort, that's what I notice. I refuse to give a fake compliment, because that does more harm than good. And I think we all should be cognizant of that. But that doesn't mean we don't compliment. It means we find what they're doing well and we notice it and we affirm that in them. And then once you do that enough, you have built the platform from which you can critique them on, and they can receive it. But you've got to build that rapport, and that comes from noticing what they do well, affirming that in them, and making that a priority. I do that. And that comes back to that example I mentioned earlier about the coach being on the sideline. The coach is not even in the game, but that fuels the coach to see his players or her players do well. That's how I feel about my students. There was a time very early in my career, I spent a lot of time making the example in front of the kids. I didn't realize it then, but basically I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to be the artist that they were looking at, and they loved my art. I mean, I have had classes break out in applause when they've seen me draw something on the board. That's one of the cool things about elementary kids. They're just awesome like that. But break out in applause because they love my drawing, like how cool is that? But in my first few years of my career, I didn't know that I was looking for validation, but I was from my students. I was looking for them to see me as the hero, the expert, all those things. And I was craving that attention, I guess you could say, from it. Now I feel the opposite. Now that I've had these years of experience, I know that the more time I spend making the example and doing this stuff for them and just solving all the problems on the board before they get to their seats, the less learning is going on, right? They're just watching me. They're just in awe, and sometimes it's great. And I'm not going to lie. It feels great when kids just act like you're a celebrity. It's totally cool. But that's not my goal. My goal is not to be the one that they're looking at and noticing all these great things. I want them to feel noticed. I want them to walk away with the feeling of accomplishment of I've put in the effort and I've worked it out, and I see the world differently now because I got my hands in there and I did something for myself. And that's the same thing. I'm so old-fashioned on this. I firmly believe that schools as well as homes the kids should be doing a lot of the upkeep. Like in certain countries around the world, the kids have to clean the table after they eat lunch, okay? And they have to put away their own things and take care of their own garbage and all that kind of stuff. And in the art room, that's how I do things. They get turns because they love it. They love it because I value that role, and I teach them about how important it is to get it set up for the next class. So we can't leave it worse than we found it. We've got to leave it equal to for the next group that comes in. Again, that's just teaching people to be good humans. And personal responsibility. If I drop paint on the floor and I just leave it, not only is it a hazard, somebody could slip in that, but it's just irresponsible. So I believe in teaching all of that along with it. So in my room, they're learning responsibility. They're learning to take ownership of the messes that they make, and not like pout and throw a fit about it, but just like, oh, I made that mess. Let's jump in together and do this together. There's plenty of times when they really impress me by how well they work together on that sort of thing. But I've created that atmosphere of that's what we do there, I could really go on for a long time, but this is how I feel. I feel that education should be about energy, enthusiasm, love of learning, as a whole. They do not just learn art in my room. They learn all these other things. And I value other content. And even when I'm doing something where I've got to divide a paper into a certain amount of, I buy a lot of large paper and then cut it down for the kids. And when I'm doing that, sometimes I am saying what I'm doing at the paper cutter so that the kids can hear me, that they know that I'm valuing fractions. That's what I'm doing. I'm cutting this in half or thirds, or I'm planning it out and I'm saying, I talk about that stuff out loud as I'm going through it, and I'm modeling it for them, the value of all those things. Interconnecting, which is so beautiful. And then, oh my gosh, I could go on for a very long time, but I feel like that is my service to the world. I am helping do what I do well in the art room with a certain group of kids and online. That's my goal for that business as well, is I'm imparting what I do well to the next generation. And I feel like if we could all see the bigger picture of what we're doing and why we're doing it, all of us would be better off, right? And if your motivation isn't something bigger than that, then what are you even doing? And, oh man, I could go on for a long time. But I'll end there. I just felt like, I don't know, from the different things I've seen in the last few days, all these professional athletes talking about their wonderful experiences with coaches and how awesome that can be. Teachers, all these things that coach on the sidelines, it just made me think about how much I don't need to be the one making the art as much as I love making art myself, right? That's one of my goals, but it's not my priority right now. My priority is passing it on and infusing a love of learning in that next generation, because I am a lifelong learner, and I think that's all of us. We all need to feel that way. And that's everything. That's the word from my daily study in the morning, of my Bible study, and then I do my prayer, and then I do all my things. I am a student of the word. And that's how we should see ourselves. But it's also everything else too. I want to learn to manage my finances better. I want to learn to manage my household better. I want to learn to do everything better. Be a better parent, be a better spouse, all these things. And if we can pass on that level of learning and make it the norm, then how much better off will we be, right? You know, I feel like that would be a great thing. So if you're interested in anything else that I do in my business, I did mention that a little bit. I've designed some journals, some devotionals. I've designed some subscription boxes for kids so that in the online world they can experience my teaching as well. Those links are in the description. So thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.